everyone. So today I'm going to create some art, but I wanted to challenge myself and use everyday materials that most of you would have just lying around in your home. So I invite you to join me in this challenge, but first you'll need the materials. So our first material will be watercolor paper. You can use regular printer paper or whatever you have, and it might just affect which material you should color with. And then moving on to your cutting materials, scissors, X-acto knives, or even box cutters. So any one of those works. For me, I'm going to be using the X-acto knife. You'll need something to paste with for your layers. So cardboard, more cardboard. This is just for your layers. Your coloring materials, so I'm going to be using my watercolor. You can use crayons, paints, markers, or even color pencils. Whatever you have on hand, that's totally fine. If you are planning on trying to make something like this, you have to figure out what would be in a nice cohesive look with it layered. So for me, I just used a standard like foreground background look, but you don't have to do that. Like, you can do other things. You don't have to just stick with that. And then sketching out everything, and so you'll need to kind of figure out on your paper that you're going to use what the background would be. So I'm sketching out just the background for the base and used Max as like the guide to make sure it was kind of revolving around his shape. Then I'm going to be going into the process of the foreground layer on the top. So I had to use a ruler for this to make sure that the foreground wouldn't be protruding too much on top of Max or the background. Like, it would still you would be able to see all the layers. And then I'm just going to be going into the line art process, so enjoy this process, and then I'll catch back with you whenever I get to the painting. at the painting, and this is really, it's just so satisfying. The painting, like, it's just the standard, my watercolor style. So if you're going to be coloring with different materials, I would say just, it all depends on that. If you're like wanting to use crayons, you might want to think about what colors specifically you're going to use, just to get more of a variety instead of just using like one crayon for a lot of different things, because they can just kind of run together and you won't have a lot of contrast in your layers. I was putting in so much detail on the edges, and it became a real challenge to try to cut all these things out. So I didn't include that in the video, but I cut out all the different pieces. And so just be aware of that if for layers, not have too complicated of shapes and edges to cut out. So that's why I would recommend an X-acto knife. Then moving on to your layers. So after you get everything cut out, you can start cutting out your cardboard pieces. So for Max, I cut out little small cubes to fit his size ratio. It's really important whenever you're making your piece, make sure that not everything is the same height. And also don't make it too big to where people can see it coming off the edge, because it just doesn't really look that nice. So make sure it's hidden. In this process, it was pretty interesting to try to see where this piece was going. It took probably roughly 6 to 8 hours. I chose something that was probably a little difficult with all the floral stuff going on. I like the way it turned out. At last minute, you know, I decided to do like the color change on the top. I just didn't really feel like it had enough contrast to it between the foreground and the background. So yeah, I'm happy with it, and I would love if y'all did participate in this challenge with the 3D pop-up pictures. I would love to know what you guys created, and I hope that you enjoyed this process in this video. So I'll just see you next time. Bye guys.